It's my great pleasure to be with Barbara Jones. And hello, Barbara, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
And I thought it may be good to talk about Barbara's joy of hill walking, hill bagging, but also to touch upon her life sailing as well. So out of the two, Barbara, what came first, the hill walking or the sailing?
By a shorthead, I think the hill walking with my parents, but closely followed by the sailing because my father bought a boat almost about the same time as he started taking me to the hills. Yeah, bought me a dinghy, and that led later on to a cruising boat, and yeah.
So what were your first memories of hill walking?
Hill walking. Going up the Watkin path on Snowdon one very snowy Christmas. People coming down, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, people coming down and saying, "Where are you going?" "Oh, to the top." "You think you'll get there?" And me sitting there crying because my feet were so cold. I was only wearing Wellington boots. And my much older brother banging my feet to try and bring life back to them.
How old would you have been then?
6, 7.
6. That's still quite young to go up Snowdon, isn't it?
I don't think we went to the top.
Oh, you didn't?
I think the day ran out, and it was madness at that time of day.
But it's still good sort of now, and excuse me asking this, but perhaps I shouldn't. I shouldn't ask you. How old are you now?
69.
69.
Yeah.
So 64 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or 60.
Yeah.
Is it 64? Well,
anyway,
63 years ago. Yeah. So it's a good memory of that time.
Yeah.
Now, if we come further to the present day, you mentioned the sort of sailing aspect. If we just go back to that.
I think that took over from the hill walking, because it certainly took over with my parents, and we gave up hill walking when I was about 14. They bought a cruising boat, and we started spending more time doing that. And then I met my husband David, and he was into sailing. And at that time, I was quite happy whatever I was doing. And the hill walking I still wanted to do it, and occasionally did do a bit, but not really. And it was, I suppose, when we went to Norway, that it really sort of took off again. Or when we came back from Norway after 6 years, because I'd done a lot of walking in Norway in the hills and things. And I realised time was running out. And it was time I started doing the things I really wanted to do and make time for them, rather than just going along and doing whatever was fun and exciting. So I perhaps came back to it a bit.
Is that coming back to the hill walking, coming back to the sailing?
Came back to the hill walking.
To the hill walking.
The sailing continued.
Yeah. Well,
but I spent more time, made more time for hill walking.
I think for the sort of initial part of this, Barbara, if we concentrate on the sailing a little bit more, we'll come on to the hill walking, but they are combined, aren't they? I know yourself and your husband David go up to Scotland quite often.
We sail a lot in Scotland, we have done over the years, and yes, I jump ship from time to time, and friends come and join him, and I jump ship and go off for a week or two, or we sail somewhere and we anchor, and either I go up a hill or he comes with me occasionally.
And is that during the summer months, presumably?
Yes, sort of May to September, yeah.
Is that most summers that you head up there, head up north?
The last 5 years, yes, but at other periods in our life we've sailed around the Baltic and up to the North Cape of Scotland, and when he was working we were based on the south coast of England. And
I know also, going back quite a few years ago, you had quite an adventure going over to the West Indies.
David gave up his job and we sold the house, and we went off, took a year off and went to the West Indies with our kids, who Rachel had just started school, so she'd have been 5 and Tessa was 3. We set off, and when an 18-year-old Canadian girl came with us to generally give a hand with everything, really.
And was this in the early 70s?
This was 73, 74. Yeah.
So this is before the time of sat-nav?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We had a sextant and a deck watch and no radio, yeah.
How long did it take to get over?
Well, the major crossing from the Canary Islands to Barbados, 28 days. 28
days?
Yeah.
Wow, it must have been quite some experience.
It was, and I think the most remarkable thing was that we were totally out of touch with anybody else, and we were just totally reliant on ourselves and what we had with us, and we had to make do and mend.
Now, I also know that recently you come back from another sailing trip, haven't you? Last 2 weeks or so, or?
Oh, that wasn't a sailing trip.
Oh, wasn't it? Oh, sorry,
No,
I thought it
that
was.
was an ordinary holiday in
Oh, was
the
it?
Canary Islands. There was no sailing involved.
Ah.
No, we didn't sail there. Yeah.
But as you were saying, most summers you head up to Scotland.
Recently, yes,
Yeah.
the last 5 years or so,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the sailing. So, you obviously have quite an adventurous spirit.
Yeah, I think you could probably say that. Yeah.
So, hill walking. I know you're quite high up in the, I think, is it the Marilyn Hall of Fame?
Yes, I don't know, somewhere about number 50 or something. I'm on the left-hand page anyway.
Left-hand page. That's a good way to describe it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you've done over 1,200 Marilyns?
About that. Offhand, I don't know how many I've done. I know I've done all the Welsh ones. I've got 3 English ones to do and about 300 Scottish ones to do.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
close to finishing off the Munros?
I've got 11 to do, yeah. Yeah.
So any other sort of round completions? So
No, I haven't completed anything. I'm not a completer. I've done about half the Corbetts and half the Grahams and a whole lot of trig points and a whole lot of flush brackets.
Well, you mentioned trigs and flush brackets. Yeah. I know, you stayed over last night, didn't you? And
Yep.
You had 26-mile cycle.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, and visiting various flush brackets around there.
Yeah, I think I did eight new flush brackets and 1 trig point.
So do you know your totals with those or not?
No, it's over 2,500 trig points and flush brackets. It's perhaps about the same.
And there's obvious some form of sort of interest going on there. When you were younger, did you sort of collect things at all or not? I often wonder with people sort of go out
Yes,
ticking
I know, I was
hills.
thinking about that. I do remember sailing when I was about 14, 15. You could buy little Ian Allen transport books, and they listed the shipping lines and all the ships, and I used to tick them off.
Yeah.
And also the Ocean Racing Club had boats that were part of that, had numbers on the sails, and I used to tick those off. So maybe there was something about ticking things off from way back when, I don't know.
I'm just sort of interested with the trigs and the flush brackets. I know, visiting trig pillars on top of hills, they take you to some wonderful areas. And I don't go trigging or flush bracketing, but I can understand why people do. Mm-hmm. What sort of pleasure does it give you?
I suppose it's the satisfaction of having got there. And, well, I suppose sort of... Well, it's somewhere to go. If you're going for a walk and you've done all the hills, the obvious things nearby, which was how I got into trig points, I suppose, was that I'd done all my local walks and was wanting something new and fresh. And I thought, I'll do all the trig points in Surrey. And the fact that many of them weren't on public footpaths just added to the frisson of the thing, that you had to do a bit of trespassing. Being a bit of a rebel at heart, that appealed to me. And then when I'd done all those, well then I might as well do the southeast of England and define that south of the Thames and the Kennet and Avon Canal and east of the Hampshire Avon, I think it was. And then, at the same time I was doing them whenever I happened to come across them. Yeah.
Have you got a total that you're aiming for or not?
No.
It's just the sheer pleasure of going out.
I don't think I'll ever do them all.
Yeah.
And I just, it gets you to very strange places. It gets you to obvious places like the top of Snowdon. But it also gets you to funny little hills you wouldn't dream of going to, and also people's back gardens. It was the one where the old lady said, we thought they'd buried an Egyptian under it.
Very good. But you were telling me earlier on today, and I only found out today, as well as something, and it must have been a goal that you set yourself many years ago, and you've just achieved it, haven't you, recently?
The walk from the south coast of England to Cape Wrath.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did that originate? Why?
Well, 1981, a friend and I took our kids and we walked the Dales Way. And then I did, in pursuit of Marilyns and trig points, I did other walks from youth hostel to youth hostel and other day walks. And at some point I thought, here I am. I think I was in Cirencester, and I thought the Romans were here, and I could fill in a few little gaps between here and Richborough Castle, actually, where the Romans had a port down in Kent. And I could walk up to Hadrian's Wall in bits and pieces, joining up the bits I've already done. And then I sort of started doing that, and then I realised, well, I've done a few bits up in Scotland. I could perhaps join those up and go to Cape Wrath. And last year I actually filled in the gap, but I didn't do it in any particular order. And sometimes I was going north to south, and sometimes south to north. But you know, had I left a bit of string there and joined up with it each time, yes, I've walked it.
Did you work out the overall
No.
mileage or the kilometres?
No. I'm also doing the south coast of England, and I'd like to finish that off so I could say I'd walk from Land's End to Cape Wrath, and I'd quite like to go up to Nuthet Head, which is the northerly corner, and do that. And I'd also I've been to Ardnamurchan, and I'd quite like to join, which is the most westerly point of mainland Britain. I'd quite like to join that up to this line that's going up the country, and also Lowestoft, which is the most easterly point. But whether that'll ever happen, I don't know. There's too many things to do.
Did you have a celebration when you reached Cape Wrath?
Well, I didn't reach Cape Wrath because I did Cape Wrath, and
Oh, yes.
I finished it in at the head of Loch Arkaig. No, I didn't have a celebration. I put my tent up and walked up a track where I'd previously got to when going up a Munro, and walked back again, and said, "Right, that's done."
Very, very understated, if I may say, Barbara. Well, before we close off, it has been a joy, Barbara, listening to the things that you've done around the hills. Also, a little bit to do with your sailing. But have you got any last comments before we close off?
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's given me a lot of pleasure. It's given me a lot of things to remember, and I've got a whole 1, 2, 3 shelves about 2 feet long full of notebooks where I write it all up, and that's quite nice to go and read again. And then perhaps when I'm old and grey and can't get up the hills, I can go back and read it all again and maybe type it all up. I don't know. Who knows? It's
a lovely way to spend a life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, Barbara Jones, for now, many, many thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Murphy. It's been a pleasure talking to you.